morning. You may be seated. Oh, to hope against hope. Have you ever been found hoping against hope? Clinging to an insistent, persistent, wiggly, wormy kind of hope that will not go away. A hope that keeps dreaming beyond all possibilities of truth, that won't let go, that just keeps on hoping because it can't not hope. Have you?
Yes.
On Friday afternoon, I rested my head against one of the brown raffia chairs in the backyard, the ones covered in teal cushions that probably need to be replaced, that have moved with our family from Pacifica to Oakland to Seattle, back down to Oakland to another place in Oakland over the last 10 years. I thought of the hope that grew in me one day to have a backyard garden so that I could grow food for my families and my neighbors, so that I could be found staring at dahlias so tall you can't tippy-toes try to reach them, to be found digging in the dirt for potatoes, because have you ever been found digging in the dirt for potatoes? God, it's glorious. But as I rested in the chair, kind of writing this sermon, but mostly just thinking on that thing called hope, I also thought about the hopes that existed in each of the many towns and cities we have called home. In each of the places those brown raffia chairs have traveled. Of our hopes to find our people and be found by our people. To lean into our callings, to be our most whole and beloved selves. But also of those hopes that cannot always be said into a microphone. I thought about the kind of hopes that have left us feeling desperate and gut-punched, begging for a little bit of mercy and compassion already, clinging once again to an insistent, persistent, wiggly, wormy kind of hope that cannot go away, that will not go away. Because hope, as sometimes is the case, is the only thing we have. I thought of a hope that actualized for me yesterday. When hope against hope, I was ordained to the diaconate in the Episcopal Church. Every person I saw yesterday, this isn't in the notes, I just greeted with, ah! I lost all words. The other shoe didn't drop as I kept thinking at night, as I kept hoping, hope upon hope, that it really would happen. So again, I ask, has this ever been the case for you? Have you ever been found hoping against hope, which is to say, hoping for hope, hoping in hope, hoping with hope, because this is the only thing you have? Because to hope against hope. Having now said a version of the word hope 24 times in a single page, I counted, there is a point to all this talk of hope. Certainly we can look at Romans 4 and be reminded of a man named Abe who, hoping against hope, as it says in the text, believed that he would become the father of many nations, according to what was said, so shall your descendants be. But we can also look at today's gospel reading, wherein we encounter a story within another story still. First, when Jesus is walking down the road, he sees a man sitting at a tax collection station, and to this man, whose name is Matthew, he says, "Follow me." There's a whole sermon in there, but that's not where this deacon is going today. As the first service noted, I can't say deacon without saying deacon like this, which kind of scares my children, but we're going to do it. Because then Jesus, and presumably Matthew too, sits down to dinner in the house with many tax collectors and sinners and a handful of disciples too. The Pharisees then throw out a why question, not understanding perhaps why Jesus isn't hanging out with them instead, to which Jesus gives a hint of mercy and sickness and the rest of the story within a story within a story that is to come, even though there's more than a whole sermon in there too, that's also not where this deacon is going today. You do realize this is the only Sunday I can really do this. Because then another interruption happens. And sure, life is full of little interruptions, or so Taylor Swift surmises. And sure as well, life is also then what happens in between all those little interruptions. But just as Jesus is waxing poetic about who he's come to call, a leader comes and kneels before him. My daughter has just died, he says, or more realistically, he shouts with a frantic kind of fear at the reality of the situation. So come and lay your hands upon her and she will live. I imagine this text with a few more exclamation points than the NRSV allows. But what follows is also one of my favorite passages in the whole Bible. What a gift to be able to then preach on this today. Here, readers come face to face with a sandwich tale of interactions. 2 slices of bread sit on the outside of a couple slices of turkey and maybe some cheese. The bread, so to speak, involves the story of a rich and powerful man, a leader of the synagogue we learned is probably named Jairus. This we don't learn from Matthew, but we do from Luke and Mark, who also write of this same story. From all three of them, we know that there wasn't anything this very powerful man could do to heal his 12-year-old daughter. Jesus doesn't speak an answer, at least not that Matthew records. But he does start to follow the leader through town. And as they walk, a large crowd begins to trail behind them, pressing in and up against them, for they are presumably on their way to Jairus' house to heal his daughter. But this is where the couple slices of turkey and perhaps that bit of cheese come in as well, because while they are walking, while the crowds are pressing around them, something else happens. A woman who was quite the opposite of Jairus, at least according to customs of that day, who was powerless in the eyes of those around her, who did not hold a position of leadership in the synagogue, who had not been allowed to go into the synagogue because she had been bleeding for 12 years, was also in a place of desperation. Perhaps like the father of the young girl, she had tried everything. Perhaps like the father of the young girl, she was out of ideas, but she'd heard of this one man, a healer, a restorer, a scandalous and unclean boundary crosser named Jesus the Christ. And there in the middle of the crowd, while throngs of people were pressing up against him at the exact same time, she mumbles to herself, not for anyone else to hear, mind her, because have you ever been found mumbling to yourself and someone else hears it? If only I could touch his cloak, I will be made well. So she does. She touches his cloak, even though she believed that touching him would defile him. But touch it she does. And then the text writes or says her faith had made her well. She had been made well because, oh, to hope against hope. This brave woman cast her lots, her only lost lots, her last-ditch hope effort lots, with the famous healer, the one who loved her, the one who loves us still. And he healed her. It's not all that different with the man whose daughter has died. By the time Jesus and Jairus arrive back at the synagogue leader's house, people are outside, the flute players are playing, the crowd is making a commotion. The daughter is dead. If only Jesus had gotten there in time, but Jesus had, in fact, gotten there in time. For the young girl was not dead, but merely sleeping. After all, Jesus is in the business of wholeness and truth, and dare I say, of that sticky thing called hope, of hope against hope. Because as one writer says, Jesus isn't a pronouncer of death, he's a giver of new life. What then is asleep within us that God might awaken? What then is ill within our communities and our neighborhoods, our cities and our governments that might be made well and restored to wholeness once again? What then is speaking to our insides right now, inviting that we too ask and beg and plead for hope against hope, for new life within our hearts and our neighbors' hearts and maybe our country's hearts too. Perhaps this hope against hope is in your body. The doctor's recent call more than you can bear. Perhaps this hope against hope is in the reality of divorce or separation when the story you thought would be yours or would be your best friend's yours isn't yours anymore. Perhaps this hope against hope is in something bigger, something outside of yourself. It's in imminent budget cuts in the city that we call home. It's in gun violence and ICE detentions and immigration deportation centers. It's in the destruction of nature when the effects of climate change and upon black and brown neighborhoods wreak havoc upon the very systems designed to give us life. Whatever it is, wherever it is, might we be found brave and willing to ask for hope upon hope, to touch the cloak of the one who is wholeness and truth, the one who brings wholeness and truth to a lost and hurting world. But might we also be found clinging to a little bit of hope against hope, to an insistent, persistent, wiggly, wormy kind of hope, a gut-punching, body, mind, soul kind of hope that will not go away, for this hope is in the Christ, in the one who makes us sing. I'll close with this. As I thought about this sitting in the backyard the other day, I just kept picturing this hymn. It's a hymn that we sometimes sing together. I didn't at all prep anyone, including the choir. But I think they know it. When peace like a river. I believe it's number 188. Attendeth my way. When the sun rolls like sea, billows roll. Whatever thy life thou hast told, yet you say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. This is what happens when the alto tries to lead a soprano song. Because to hope against hope. Amen.